The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of the United Nations Galactic Affairs building. Ambassador Tae-min adjusted his black tie one final time before entering the grand meeting hall. He had been Earth's chief diplomat for alien affairs for 12 years. But today felt different. Today carried the weight of destiny. The massive chamber could hold 3,000 people, but only 50 humans sat in the carefully arranged seats. Across from them, the alien delegation waited with the patience of predators. Their leader, Overlord, Crixmoth of the Velthari Empire, stood nearly 3 meters tall. His purple skin gleamed under the artificial lights, and his 4 arms moved with calculated grace. "Humans of Earth," Crixmoth began, his voice echoing through hidden speakers that translated his words into every Earth language simultaneously. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding your species." Tae-min remained seated, his hands folded calmly in his lap. Behind him, Director So-young of Human Defense Coordination leaned forward slightly. She had requested to attend this meeting personally, which was unusual for someone who typically stayed in classified briefing rooms. "For 20 years, your kind has expanded across the galaxy like a virus," Crixmoth continued. 47 systems now host human colonies. You consume resources at an alarming rate. You refuse to follow established galactic protocols for new species integration. The alien's secondary arms gestured toward a holographic display that materialized in the center of the room. It showed the Milky Way galaxy with red dots marking human settlements. To alien eyes, it probably looked like an infection spreading through healthy tissue. "The Council has authorized me to deliver an ultimatum," Crixmoth announced. "You have 72 standard hours to comply with our demands." A younger diplomat named Jin Woo shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He had joined the diplomatic corps believing that humanity could find peaceful coexistence with alien civilizations. The last few years had taught him that the universe was not interested in human idealism. Crixmoth's main arms activated controls on his wrist device. The holographic display changed to show a list of demands written in multiple languages. "First, you will immediately cease all colonial expansion. Second, you will surrender your faster-than-light travel technology to Council oversight. Third, you will accept vassal status under Velthari protection." The silence in the room was deafening. So-young's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, though she had hoped it would never come. "Fourth," the alien continued, "you will relocate all human populations from the outer rim systems back to your core worlds. Fifth, you will submit to genetic monitoring to ensure your species remains within acceptable parameters." Tae-min finally stood. His movement was slow and deliberate, like a teacher rising to address unruly students. "Overlord Crixmoth," he said in perfect galactic standard, "I appreciate the Council's concerns about human expansion." "This is not a negotiation, Ambassador," Crixmoth interrupted. "This is a final notice." "I understand," Tae-min replied calmly, "and I have a response for the Council." Every human in the room held their breath. Every alien leaned forward with interest. The next words would determine whether humanity spent the next century as free beings or as pets in a galactic zoo. "We respectfully decline," Tae-min said. The alien delegation erupted in surprised chatter. Crixmoth's 4 eyes widened in what might have been shock or amusement. "Perhaps you do not understand the consequences of defiance, Ambassador. The Council has assembled enforcement fleets throughout the galaxy." "I understand perfectly," Tae-min responded. "Humanity chooses to remain free." Jin Woo felt sweat forming on his forehead. He had expected negotiations, compromises, perhaps some middle ground that both sides could accept. A flat refusal seemed like diplomatic suicide. Crixmoth's purple skin began to shift toward a darker shade. "Very well. In 72 hours, Council enforcement fleets will begin pacification protocols. Your colonies will be evacuated by force. Your technology will be confiscated. Your population will be relocated to reservation worlds." "That is your choice to make," Tae-min said simply. The alien overlord stared at him for several long seconds. You cannot possibly believe your primitive weapons could stand against the combined might of 12 galactic empires. For the first time in the meeting, Tae-min smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Overlord Crixmoth, humanity has survived. Ice ages, plagues, wars, and every natural disaster our planet could produce. We have never been conquered by any force, terrestrial or otherwise. We do not intend to start now. So-young felt a secure communication device vibrate against her wrist. The message was brief and coded, but she understood its meaning perfectly. Admiral Dong-hyun was ready. This meeting is concluded, Crixmoth announced. You have 72 hours to reconsider. After that, your choice will be made for you. The alien delegation filed out of the chamber with the confident stride of beings who had never experienced true resistance. Behind them, the human representatives remained seated in thoughtful silence. Director So-young, Tae-min said quietly, please contact the president, tell him it's time. So-young nodded and activated her communication device. This is Control to Shepard. The sheep have rejected the wolf's offer. Activate protocol blackout immediately. Across the room, intelligence analyst Hyejin was monitoring galactic communication channels through her portable equipment. Director, she called softly, I'm detecting massive fleet movements in 7 sectors. They're not waiting 72 hours. How long do we have? So-young asked. Based on their current vectors and speed, the first enforcement fleets will reach our outer colonies in 18 hours. Jinwoo turned pale. 18 hours? But they said 72. They lied, Tae-min explained patiently. The ultimatum was theater. They intended to attack regardless of our answer. So-young was already moving toward the exit. Ambassador, I need to coordinate with Defense Command. The Admiral has been waiting for this moment for 30 years. What, Admiral? Jinwoo asked, confusion clear in his voice. Tae-min placed a gentle hand on the younger man's shoulder. Jinwoo, there are aspects of human defense that exist beyond diplomatic channels. Director So-young oversees projects that most of us are not cleared to know about. As the humans began to leave the chamber, Hyejin continued monitoring alien communications. The traffic was increasing rapidly. Fleet commanders across the galaxy were receiving activation orders. Transport ships were being loaded with occupation supplies. Director, Hyejin called out. They're treating this like a simple police action. Most of their communications refer to primitive human technology and minimal resistance expected. So-young paused at the doorway. That's exactly what we wanted them to think. Outside the building, news crews were gathering. Word of the alien ultimatum had somehow leaked, and reporters were demanding statements from government officials. Tae-min could see the fear in their eyes as they shouted questions about humanity's response. A young reporter managed to get close enough to thrust a microphone toward him. Ambassador, is it true that aliens have demanded Earth's surrender? The Galactic Council has made certain demands, Tae-min replied carefully. Humanity has declined to accept those demands. What does that mean for our colonies? Another reporter shouted. Are we going to war? Tae-min stopped walking and looked directly into the nearest camera. It means that humanity will face whatever comes next, as we always have, together and on our own terms. As the diplomatic team's vehicles pulled away from the building, So-young was already deep in secure communication with facilities across the solar system and beyond. Code words and activation phrases flowed through encrypted channels. Systems that had remained dormant for decades began to wake up. Shepard to all stations, she said into her communication device. The Admiral is cleared for full activation. Project Deep Strike is now operational. Repeat, Deep Strike is operational. Somewhere in the darkness beyond Neptune, massive engines that had been built in secret over the course of 3 decades began to power up. Weapons that alien empires had dismissed as impossible started their charging sequences. Ships larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen began to move. Humanity had said no to the Galactic Ultimatum. Now it was time to show the universe what that meant. The countdown had begun, but the aliens had no idea what they had just awakened. Admiral Dong-hyun stood in the command center of his flagship, watching holographic displays that showed the location of every human vessel within 1,000 light-years. Most people would see empty space and scattered colonies. He saw the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever assembled. The command ship Indomitable hung in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, completely invisible to any scanning technology the alien empires possessed. Around it, like sleeping giants, waited the products of humanity's greatest secret project. Admiral, called Chief Engineer Minho from his station, all dreadnoughts are reporting full power. Weapon systems are charged and ready. Dong-hyun nodded, without taking his eyes off the tactical display. At 73 years old, he had spent more than half his life preparing for this day. The scars on his left arm told the story of the colony wars, when human settlements had fought each other over resources and territory. Those conflicts had taught him valuable lessons about survival. "How many ships do we have operational?" he asked. 412 dreadnoughts fully ready, Minho replied. Another 68 in final preparation stages. Support vessels number in the thousands. Captain Yoonji approached from the communication station. She commanded the lead dreadnought Terra's Wrath, a ship so large it could house a city of 50,000 people. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from our scout networks. The alien enforcement fleets are larger than expected." "How large?" "Initial estimates suggest over 2,000 ships across multiple fleets. They're converging on our outer colony worlds." Dong-hyun finally turned from the displays to look at his senior staff. These men and women had dedicated their lives to a project that officially didn't exist. "Ladies and gentlemen, 30 years ago I made a promise to the people of Earth. I promised that humanity would never bow to alien masters." Tactical Coordinator Woo Jin stepped forward with a data tablet. "Sir, we've identified their primary targets: New Busan, Harmony Station, and the mining colonies in the Kepler sector. Classic demonstration attacks designed to show Earth what happens to defiant populations." "They're making the same mistake that Earth's ancient empires made," Dong-hyun said quietly. "They believe that fear is more powerful than determination." The Admiral walked to a secure terminal and began entering authorization codes that only 3 people in the human government knew. "Activate Project Deep Strike, all phases." Across human space, dormant systems began to wake up. Hidden shipyards that had been constructed in asteroid belts started their final preparations. Weapons platforms disguised as mining stations powered up targeting systems. Most importantly, the dreadnoughts began moving toward their assigned positions. Minho monitored the engineering reports streaming in from across the fleet. "Admiral, I should probably mention that the alien empires have no idea what they're about to face." "Explain." "Their weapons technology is based on energy shields and plasma weapons, standard galactic warfare for the past 1,000 years. But our intelligence suggests they abandoned kinetic weapons because they were too destructive for civilized warfare." Dong-hyun smiled grimly. "And what have we spent 30 years perfecting?" "Kinetic weapons, sir, along with a few other things they definitely won't expect." The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this confrontation since first contact, 20 years earlier. While Earth's diplomats had engaged in peaceful negotiations and cultural exchanges, military scientists had been analyzing every piece of alien technology they could acquire. Captain Yoonji pulled up a holographic schematic of her ship. The Terra's Wrath stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapons that no alien empire had ever conceived. "Admiral, should I brief the crew on our actual capabilities?" "Do it. Full disclosure. After today, there won't be any more secrets." Yoonji activated the ship-wide communication system. "All crew members, this is your captain. For those of you who have wondered what we've been building out here in the dark, it's time you learned the truth." Throughout the dreadnought, crew members stopped their work to listen. Many had been recruited from Earth's best military academies without knowing what project they would be joining. "We are the tip of humanity's spear," Yoonji continued. "Our ship carries weapons that can destroy entire fleets. Our armor is designed to withstand attacks that would vaporize conventional vessels. We are not just a warship. We are a statement." In the engineering sections, teams were making final preparations. to weapon systems that pushed the boundaries of physics. The void torpedoes were humanity's most terrifying innovation. Weapons that could tear holes in space-time itself, creating gravitational anomalies that would crush enemy ships. "The kinetic bombardment system is ready," reported Weapons Officer Hyun-woo. "We can accelerate projectiles to 90% of light speed." "And the plasma lance arrays?" Yoon-ji asked. "Fully charged. Each lance can cut through a battleship like it was made of paper." Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Dong-hyun was reviewing reports from intelligence networks throughout the galaxy. Agent Hee-jin had managed to intercept alien military communications, providing crucial information about enemy fleet compositions and battle plans. "They're expecting easy victories," Woo-jin reported. "Most of their fleet commanders have never faced serious resistance. They view this as a policing action, not a war." "That arrogance will cost them," Dong-hyun replied. "But we need to be careful. Once we reveal our true capabilities, they'll adapt quickly." The Admiral accessed his personal files, reviewing 3 decades of planning and preparation. Project Deep Strike hadn't just been about building bigger ships. It had been about revolutionizing space combat itself. Human dreadnoughts were designed to operate independently for years at a time. They carried their own manufacturing facilities, their own food production systems, even their own medical centers. An alien fleet might destroy human colonies, but the dreadnoughts could survive indefinitely in deep space. "Sir," called Communications Officer Kang Min, "we're receiving activation confirmations from all sectors. Every dreadnought is ready for combat operations." Dong-hyun nodded and moved to the central command station. Around him, his staff prepared for the most important battle in human history. "Open a channel to all ships." "Channel open, Admiral." "This is Admiral Dong-hyun to all vessels of the Deep Strike Fleet. In approximately 16 hours, alien enforcement fleets will arrive at our outer colonies expecting to find helpless human settlements. Instead, they will discover that humanity has teeth." Throughout the hidden fleet, crew members listened to their Supreme Commander's words with growing excitement and determination. "We have spent 30 years preparing for this moment. We have built ships that the galaxy has never imagined. We have developed weapons that alien empires abandoned as too dangerous. We have trained for combat scenarios that our enemies believe impossible." The Admiral paused, looking out through the command center's viewports at the vast darkness where his ships waited. "In 16 hours, the galaxy will learn what humans do when cornered. They will learn that we do not surrender. We do not retreat. We do not bow to threats from those who believe might makes right." Across the fleet, weapons systems hummed with deadly energy. Engines that could propel 3-kilometer ships at unprecedented speeds stood ready. Crews that had trained for decades, without knowing their true purpose, finally understood the magnitude of their mission. Today, humanity says no to galactic tyranny. Tomorrow, the galaxy learns to respect that answer. Deep Strike Fleet, prepare for emergence. Show them what Earth's children can do when someone threatens their family. The communication ended, leaving the fleet in purposeful silence. In 16 hours, the most one-sided battle in galactic history would begin. The aliens just didn't know which side would be doing the slaughtering. Admiral Dong-hyun returned to his tactical displays, watching as his dreadnoughts moved into final positions. Humanity had been underestimated for the last time. President Jae-hyun stood before the cameras in the Global Defense Command Center, knowing that his words would be heard on every human world across the galaxy. Behind him, the massive screens showed real-time displays of human colonies, each one now under threat from approaching alien fleets. The broadcasting equipment was more sophisticated than anything used for previous presidential addresses. Communications Director Kang Min had ensured that the signal would reach not just Earth, but all 47 human colonies simultaneously through quantum communication networks that the aliens didn't know existed. "My fellow humans," President Jae-hyun began, his voice calm and steady. 6 hours ago, representatives of the Galactic Council delivered an ultimatum to Earth. They demanded our surrender, our submission, and our acceptance of permanent second-class status in the galaxy. We call home. Beside the President, General Yu Jin stood in full military dress uniform. As Supreme Commander of Terran Forces, she represented the visible face of human military power. What the galaxy didn't know was that the visible military was less than 10% of humanity's actual defensive capabilities. The Council believes that humans are primitive because we are young, the President continued. They believe we are weak because we have not conquered other species. They believe we will surrender because they have never seen humans when our backs are against the wall. On Earth, in coffee shops and homes and public squares, people gathered around screens to watch their leader's historic address. On colonies, throughout human space, families huddled together in community centers, knowing that alien warships were approaching their worlds. I stand before you today to give the Galactic Council our answer, President Jae-hyun said, his voice growing stronger. We reject their ultimatum. We reject their authority over human affairs. We reject any attempt to limit humanity's future among the stars. General Yoo-jin stepped forward to the microphones. Citizens, I want you to understand what this means. Alien enforcement fleets are approaching our colonies as I speak. They expect to find helpless settlements that will surrender at the first sign of superior firepower. The general paused, allowing her words to sink in across 47 worlds. They are about to learn that humans do not surrender. They are about to discover that we have been preparing for this day since the moment we first encountered their arrogance. Colonial Liaison Bora activated a holographic display showing the positions of alien fleets throughout human space. Red markers indicated enemy vessels, while blue markers showed known human defensive positions. What the display didn't show were the hundreds of dreadnoughts waiting in deep space. The Council has assembled the largest military force in galactic history, Bora explained to the listening billions. Over 2,000 warships from 12 different empires. They believe this overwhelming show of force will break human resistance before it can begin. President Jae-hyun moved back to the center of the broadcast area. Let me tell you something about humans that the galaxy has never understood. We came from a world that tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, predators. Our planet spent millions of years testing our species. The president's words were being simultaneously translated into dozens of languages and broadcast across human space. On mining colonies, in distant systems, workers stopped their shifts to listen. On research stations orbiting alien suns, scientists gathered around communication terminals. We learned to adapt or die. We learned to innovate or perish. We learned to fight together or fall separately. These lessons made us what we are today, not primitive savages, but the most adaptable species the galaxy has ever seen. Meanwhile, aboard the galactic flagship Dominion's Edge, Overlord Crixmoth was monitoring human communications with growing irritation. The purple-skinned alien had expected fear and desperate attempts at negotiation. Instead, he was hearing defiance. Primitive species always make grand speeches before they surrender, he told his fleet commanders during their final briefing. Humans are no different. Commander Thaisara of the Kethmori Empire studied the tactical displays showing human colony positions. My lord, our intelligence report suggests that human military technology is limited to conventional weapons and small defensive fleets. Exactly as expected, Crixmoth replied. They have expanded quickly across many systems, but they lack the industrial capacity for serious military production. This will be a simple demonstration of superior firepower. Back on Earth, President Jae-hyun was reaching the climax of his historic address. The Galactic Council believes that showing us their fleets will make us afraid. They are correct about one thing. We are afraid. We are afraid of living as slaves. We are afraid of accepting limits on human potential. We are afraid of a future where our children bow to alien masters. General Yoo-jin stepped forward again. But there is something the Council should be afraid of too. They should be afraid of what happens when you corner the most dangerous predator species this galaxy has ever produced. The General activated her own communication device, sending coded signals to military installations across human space. They should be afraid of the fact that humans have never lost a war that truly mattered to our survival. President Jae-hyun concluded his address with words that would be remembered throughout human history. We came from a world where we had to fight for every inch of ground, every breath of air, every drop of water. The galaxy thinks this makes us primitive. They are about to learn it makes us unbreakable. As the broadcast ended, emergency communication networks activated across human space. Parents called their children on distant colonies. Military families prepared for separation. Everyone understood that the next few days would determine humanity's future. On New Busan, the first colony targeted for demonstration, Governor Dalsu was addressing his 3 million residents. Citizens, we have received word that alien fleets are approaching our system. I want you to know that Earth has not abandoned us. Dalsu didn't know about the Dreadnoughts, but he had been briefed on certain defensive measures. Our orbital platforms are armed and ready. Our militia has been training for this possibility. We will show the galaxy that humans protect their own. Aboard Dominion's Edge, Crixmoth was receiving final reports from his fleet commanders. My lord, all vessels are in position for the demonstration attack on New Busan. Estimated time to target 6 hours. Excellent. Once we pacify the first colony, the others will surrender without resistance. Commander Thisara studied the sensor readings from New Busan's system. My lord, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures in the outer system. Probably mining equipment or industrial facilities. Ignore it. What the alien sensors were detecting were the massive fusion reactors of 12 human dreadnoughts, silently waiting in the darkness beyond New Busan's outer planets. Captain Yoonji monitored the approaching alien fleet from the bridge of Terra's Wrath. Tactical, she called to her weapons officer. How long until the enemy fleet is within optimal firing range? 5 hours, 43 minutes, Captain. And our support vessels? All fighters and support ships are in position. The aliens have no idea what they're flying into. Yoonji opened a communication channel to the other dreadnought captains in her battle group. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've trained for. In 6 hours, the galaxy learns that humanity has teeth. Back on Earth, intelligence analyst Heejin was monitoring alien communications from her station in the Global Defense Command Center. General Yoojin, the alien fleets are maintaining their attack schedules. They're treating this like a routine pacification operation. Perfect, General Yoojin replied. The more confident they are, the bigger the shock will be. President Jae-hyun was receiving updates from colonies throughout human space. Every governor, every militia commander, every citizen was asking the same question. Would Earth really fight for them? Kang Min, the president called to his communications director. Send a message to all colonies. Tell them that no human world stands alone. Tell them that Earth keeps its promises. As night fell over Earth's capital, the planet's population prepared for the most important day in human history. In a few hours, alien fleets would attack human colonies expecting easy victories. Instead, they would discover that humanity had spent 30 years preparing the galaxy's most unpleasant surprise. The countdown continued, but now both sides knew exactly what was at stake. The aliens expected to demonstrate their power. Humanity was about to demonstrate something far more dangerous, the fury of a species that refused to kneel. The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of New Busan's solar system, with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. 200 warships in perfect formation, their energy shields glowing like deadly stars against the darkness of space. Commander Zethkol of the Velthari Assault Fleet studied his tactical displays with satisfaction. Sensors show minimal defensive installations around the human colony. This will be over quickly. His second-in-command gestured toward the inner system. Commander, should we broadcast surrender demands before beginning the attack? No. The demonstration must be decisive. The other human colonies need to see what happens to those who defy the Council. But the alien sensors were missing something crucial. Hidden in the darkness beyond the system's outer planets, Captain Unji waited aboard the dreadnought Terra's Wrath. Around her massive ship, 11 other human dreadnoughts maintained perfect silence. Tactical Officer Subin, Yoonji called softly, report on enemy fleet composition. 200 vessels, Captain. Mix of battleships, cruisers, and support craft. They're maintaining standard Council formation patterns. Subin paused, studying her displays more carefully. Captain, they're not even scanning for hostile contacts. They think we're mining equipment. Yunji smiled grimly. How long until they reach the colony? At current speed, 90 minutes. And how long until they're within our optimal firing range? 47 minutes. The captain activated her communication system, connecting with the other Dreadnought commanders in her battle group. All ships, this is Yunji. Execute emergence protocol in 45 minutes. Let's show the galaxy what Earth's children can do. Throughout the human fleet, crews made final preparations for combat. Gunnery Commander Hyun-woo supervised the charging of weapon systems that the alien empires had dismissed as too dangerous for civilized warfare. Kinetic bombardment system at full power, he reported. Void torpedoes armed and ready. Plasma lance arrays charged to maximum. What about our fighter squadrons? Yunji asked. Squadron leader Ye Jin responded from the hangar deck. All fighters. Ready for launch, Captain? The pilots are eager to show the aliens some human-style dogfighting. As the alien fleet continued its approach toward New Busan, completely unaware of the trap they were entering, Admiral Dong Hyun monitored the situation from his command ship. This would be humanity's first real test against galactic military technology. Admiral, reported Tactical Coordinator Woo Jin. All Dreadnought groups are in position. 400 ships ready for emergence across 12 systems. Dong Hyun nodded approvingly. And our intelligence networks? Alien communications suggest they expect minimal resistance. Most of their fleet commanders are treating this as a training exercise. Then they're about to receive an education. Back in the New Busan system, the alien fleet was beginning its final approach toward the human colony. Commander Zethkol was already preparing victory reports for his superiors when his sensor officer called out in alarm. Commander, massive energy signatures detected throughout the outer system. What kind of energy signatures? Unknown, sir. They're enormous. Zethkol moved to the sensor station, studying readings that made no sense. This must be equipment malfunction. Run full diagnostics. But the sensors were working perfectly. They were detecting the fusion reactors and weapon systems of 12 human dreadnoughts, each one larger than anything in the alien fleet. Sir, the sensor officer said, his voice trembling. Whatever those signatures belong to, they're moving toward us. Captain Yunji gave the order that changed galactic history. All ships, this is Terra's wrath. Execute emergence. Show them what humanity, built in the dark. Across the New Busan system, space itself seemed to tear open as human dreadnoughts dropped their stealth systems and revealed themselves. Ships 3 kilometers long materialized from apparent emptiness, their hulls bristling with weapons that alien empires had abandoned centuries ago. The effect on the alien fleet was immediate and devastating. Ships that had maintained perfect formation suddenly broke ranks as commanders tried to understand what they were seeing. Impossible, Commander Zethkol screamed at his sensor officer. Ships that size cannot exist. Sir, they're targeting our formation. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Return fire immediately. But the aliens were using tactics designed for conventional galactic warfare. Human dreadnoughts had been built according to different principles entirely. Hyun-woo fired the first shot of humanity's war for independence. The kinetic bombardment system accelerated a projectile to 90% of light speed, sending a mass of dense metal through space faster than the alien shields could react. The projectile struck the alien flagship's forward section and punched completely through the ship like it was made of paper. The vessel's fusion reactor destabilized, creating a brief new star in the darkness of space. Direct hit on enemy flagship, Subin reported. Target destroyed. But that was just the beginning. As the human dreadnoughts opened fire with their full arsenals, the alien fleet discovered that their energy shields were useless against kinetic weapons traveling at relativistic speeds. Void torpedoes tore holes in space-time itself, creating gravitational anomalies that crushed entire squadrons of alien ships. Plasma lances cut through enemy formations like burning swords. Kinetic projectiles punched through shields that had been designed to stop energy weapons. Squadron leader Ye Jin launched her fighters into the chaos of battle. All pilots, engage at will. Show them how humans fight. The human fighters were smaller and faster than anything the aliens had encountered. They used tactics based on Earth's ancient air combat doctrines, diving through alien formations and striking at weak points before disappearing back into space. Enemy fighters are using impossible maneuvers, an alien pilot reported over the communication channels. They're ignoring standard engagement protocols. That was because human pilots had never learned standard galactic engagement protocols. They fought like their ancestors had fought in Earth's skies, with aggression, creativity, and a complete willingness to take risks that alien pilots considered suicidal. Within 30 minutes, the alien demonstration fleet was completely destroyed. 200 ships that had entered the system expecting easy victory were now expanding clouds of radioactive debris. But Admiral Dong Hyun wasn't finished. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out as dreadnought battle groups engaged, alien fleets at 12 different colonies. Admiral, Wu Jin reported, all battle groups report successful engagement. Enemy fleets are retreating or destroyed in every system. And our losses? Minimal, sir. 2 dreadnoughts report minor damage. No ships lost. The Admiral allowed himself a satisfied smile. Open communication channels to all human colonies. Tell them that Earth keeps its promises. Throughout human space, the news spread like wildfire. The alien demonstration fleets had been obliterated by human forces that supposedly didn't exist. Colony governors who had prepared for invasion found themselves hosting victory celebrations instead. On New Busan, Governor Dal Su addressed his citizens with tears in his eyes. People of New Busan, Earth has not abandoned us. The alien fleet that came to conquer us has been destroyed by ships we never knew existed. But the real shock was spreading through alien communication networks. Emergency signals flooded galactic space as news of the defeats reached the Galactic Council. Impossible! Overlord Crixmoth screamed when the reports reached his command ship. Humans don't have that kind of technology. My lord, his intelligence officer replied, we may have seriously underestimated human capabilities. Council chambers throughout the galaxy erupted in panic as member species demanded explanations. The primitive humans had technology that made the great empire's fleets look like toys. Captain Yunji surveyed the debris field that had once been an alien fleet. Subin, broadcast a message on all galactic frequencies. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Yunji of the human dreadnought Terra's Wrath to all Galactic Council forces. You came to our space expecting to find helpless colonies. Instead, you found Earth's children. We are not primitive. We are not defenseless. We are not impressed by your threats. The message reached alien commanders throughout the galaxy, carried by communication systems that the humans weren't supposed to possess. Any council fleet that approaches human space will be destroyed. Any attempt to harm human colonies will result in retaliation against council worlds. You wanted to see human technology. Now you have seen it. Admiral Dong Hyun received reports of alien fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Everywhere, council forces were withdrawing from human space, their commanders no longer confident in easy victory. Admiral, reported Communications Officer Kang Min, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different alien fleets. Denied. Tell them to return to council space and inform their superiors that humanity is no longer accepting ultimatums. As the debris from the alien fleets continued to expand through space, one truth became clear to the entire galaxy. Humanity had not just refused to surrender. They had been preparing for war since the moment they learned they were not alone, among the stars. The countdown was over. The dreadnoughts had emerged, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news of humanity's overwhelming victory spread through the galaxy faster than the speed of light itself, carried by quantum communication networks that most species didn't know existed. On thousands of worlds, alien populations gathered around communication devices to hear impossible reports. This is Galactic News Service. The announcer's translated voice echoed through the council chambers on Velthar Prime. Human forces have reportedly destroyed entire council enforcement fleets, using weapons technology previously thought impossible. Overlord Crixmoth sat in his command chair aboard the retreating flagship Dominion's Edge, staring at tactical displays that showed the locations where 12 council fleets had simply disappeared. 2,000 ships reduced to expanding debris fields in less than 6 hours. My lord, his intelligence officer approached carefully. We're receiving communications from council worlds throughout the galaxy. They're demanding explanations. What explanations can I give? Crixmoth replied bitterly. That we were defeated by a species we dismissed as primitive? That their ships are larger and more powerful than anything we've ever built? Communications Officer Thisara studied the intercepted human broadcasts with growing alarm. My lord, these humans aren't just technologically advanced. Their tactical doctrine is completely alien to us. They use kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds. They employ gravitational weapons. They fight like what? Like they have no concept of civilized warfare. That assessment was spreading through alien military circles across the galaxy. Human combat methods violated every principle of galactic warfare that had been established over millennia. They attacked with weapons that council species had abandoned as too destructive. They used tactics that ignored accepted rules of engagement. On the council homeworld of Zentari, emergency sessions convened as member species demanded answers. Ambassador Dalsu, representing humanity's new position of strength, sat calmly as alien delegates shouted accusations and demands. The humans have violated every galactic treaty regarding weapons development, screamed the Kethmori representative. Kinetic bombardment weapons were banned for good reason. Gravitational manipulation devices are considered crimes against nature, added the Zephyrian delegate. Dalsu stood slowly, his voice carrying the confidence of someone whose species had just proven its military superiority. Honored delegates, humanity never signed treaties banning kinetic weapons or gravitational manipulation. We were never consulted about these restrictions. Because your species was considered too primitive to develop such technology? Clearly, Dalsu replied with a slight smile, that assessment was incorrect. The debate that followed would reshape galactic politics for centuries. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Council faced a species that could not be bullied into submission. Worse, intelligence reports suggested that the human dreadnoughts were just the beginning. Military intelligence analyst Na Young presented her findings to a closed session of Council military commanders. Based on our analysis of the recent engagements, human military capability exceeds our most pessimistic projections. Explain, demanded Fleet Admiral Korax of the Unified Systems. Their dreadnoughts appear to be completely self-sufficient. They can operate independently for years without resupply. They carry manufacturing facilities, agricultural systems, even research laboratories. The implications were terrifying. Traditional, galactic warfare relied on supply lines and resource management. Human ships seemed immune to both limitations. Furthermore, Na Young continued, our communications intercepts suggest that the 400 ships we encountered represent only a fraction of their total fleet strength. The silence in the chamber was deafening. If humanity had thousands of dreadnoughts hidden throughout space, the balance of galactic power had shifted permanently. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Jae-hyun was meeting with Admiral Dong-hyun to discuss humanity's response to desperate diplomatic overtures from dozens of alien species. Mr. President, the Admiral reported, we're receiving surrender offers from 47 different alien governments. Most are offering trade agreements, technology transfers, even military alliances. And the Galactic Council itself? Radio silence, sir. But our intelligence networks report massive fleet buildups in the core systems. They're preparing for a larger conflict. President Jae-hyun studied the holographic star map showing human territory. Admiral, how long can we maintain our current defensive posture? Indefinitely, sir. Our dreadnoughts are designed for extended independent operations. But if the Council commits their entire military strength, we'll need allies. That assessment proved correct as reports arrived from deep space monitoring stations. Intelligence Officer Hyejin briefed the leadership on troubling developments in the galactic core. President, we're detecting massive energy buildups in the ancient systems. The eternal Kethmori Empire and the Void Singers are awakening. Admiral Dong-hyun felt a chill of concern. I thought those civilizations had withdrawn from galactic affairs millennia ago. They had, sir. But our emergence appears to have motivated them to take action. The eternal Kethmori Empire and the Void Singers represented something humanity had not yet faced. Civilizations millions of years old with technology that predated current galactic knowledge. They had withdrawn from active politics not from weakness, but from a sense that younger species posed no threat to their ancient dominance. Humanity's rapid rise changed that calculation. What kind of technology are we talking about? President Jae-hyun asked. Unknown, sir, but energy readings suggest they have access to power sources that dwarf our fusion reactors. Possibly matter-antimatter annihilation on a stellar scale? The president turned to Admiral Dong-hyun. Can our dreadnoughts handle that level of technology? Unknown, sir. We've never tested our weapons against targets of that magnitude, as humanity grappled with the emergence of ancient powers. The political situation across the galaxy continued to deteriorate. Member species of the Galactic Council began questioning whether continued association with anti-human policies was worth the risk. The Aquarian Federation was the first to break ranks. Their ambassador to the Council announced their withdrawal from enforcement operations against human colonies. The Aquarian people have no quarrel with humanity. Their statement read, "We see no benefit in continuing policies that have proven both ineffective and dangerous to our fleets." Within days, 17 other species followed suit. The monolithic opposition to humanity began fracturing as individual species calculated their own survival odds. Trade delegations from dozens of worlds requested permission to enter human space. Species that had supported the ultimatum now desperately sought peaceful relationships with the humans they had tried to subjugate. Captain Yoonji received one such delegation aboard her dreadnought Terra's Wrath. The Zephyrian trade representatives seemed nervous as they toured the ship's weapon systems. "Captain," their leader asked carefully, "your kinetic bombardment system, could it destroy a planet?" "If necessary," Yoonji replied simply. "And these void torpedoes, they manipulate gravity itself? They tear holes in space-time. The gravitational effects are a side benefit." The Zephyrians exchanged worried glances. Their home fleet consisted of ships that would be considered escorts compared to the human dreadnoughts. Perhaps, their leader suggested, the Zephyrian Republic and humanity could find common ground in trade agreements. Similar conversations were taking place throughout human space as alien species scrambled to position themselves on the winning side of a conflict that was rapidly reshaping galactic politics. But in the ancient core systems, powers older than most current civilizations were preparing for war. The eternal Kethmori Empire had not fought a serious conflict in 10 million years. The Void Singers had been dormant for so long that most species considered them myths. Both ancient civilizations viewed humanity's emergence as an existential threat to the galactic order they had established. If humans could challenge the Council with technology and tactics that violated established norms, what would stop other young species from attempting similar rebellion? Deep space monitoring. Stations detected the first movements of ancient fleets. Ships the size of moons powered by energy sources that made stars look dim. Technology that could manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Weapons that could sterilize entire solar systems. Admiral Dong-hyun studied the intelligence reports with growing concern. "We're about to face enemies that make the Council look like children playing with toys. Can we win?" President Jae-hyun asked. "I don't know, sir. But I know we won't surrender." As the galaxy prepared for the largest conflict in its recorded history, one thing became clear. Humanity's refusal to accept the Council's ultimatum had awakened forces that had slept for millions of years. The real war was about to begin. The ancient ships emerged from the galactic core like nightmares given form. Vessels the size of moons, their dark hulls absorbing light itself, powered by technology that had existed when the current galaxy was young. The eternal Kethmori Empire and the Void Singers had awakened from their million-year slumber, and they were not pleased. Admiral Dong-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship Indomitable, watching sensor displays that showed impossible readings. "Those ships are generating energy equivalent to entire star systems," reported Chief Engineer Minho, his voice filled with scientific awe and military dread. "How many?" the Admiral asked. 57 confirmed contacts, sir. each one larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. Across human space, emergency klaxons sounded as the ancient fleets began their approach. These were not the relatively civilized council forces humanity had defeated weeks earlier. These were the galaxy's original masters. Species so old, they remembered when current stellar formations were still forming. Captain Yunji received the fleet-wide communication from Admiral Dong-hyun aboard her dreadnought Terra's Wrath. All commanders, this is Admiral Dong-hyun. The enemy we now face is unlike anything humanity has encountered. These civilizations controlled the galaxy when our sun was young. Throughout the human fleet, crews prepared for what might be humanity's final battle. The ancient powers had awakened specifically to eliminate what they saw as a threat to galactic stability, a young species that refused to accept limitations. Sir, Tactical Coordinator Wu Jin reported, the ancient fleets are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding our immediate surrender. What are their terms? Complete extinction, sir. They consider humanity too dangerous to exist. Admiral Dong-hyun felt a cold smile cross his face. Then they understand us perfectly. The first engagement came at the edge of human territory, where Commander Jun Seo led a squadron of experimental fighters against a Void Singer scout ship. The alien vessel was the size of a city, its weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. All fighters. This is Jun Seo. Remember, we're not trying to destroy that thing. We're trying to learn how it works. The human fighters dove toward the ancient ship using tactics that violated every principle of sensible space combat. Instead of maintaining safe distances, they flew directly into the enemy's weapon range, analyzing its defensive systems while dodging attacks that could vaporize them instantly. Pattern analysis complete, reported fighter pilot So-min. The ancient ship's weapons are incredibly powerful, but they're designed for large targets. They can't track small, fast-moving objects effectively. Jun Seo smiled grimly. Just like fighting dinosaurs with a sword. Acknowledged. All fighters, execute pattern Delta 7. The human fighters scattered like a swarm of angry insects, each one following a different attack vector that confused the ancient ship's targeting systems. They weren't trying to destroy the massive vessel. They were gathering intelligence for the larger battle to come. Meanwhile, Dr. Su Jin worked frantically in her research laboratory aboard the Dreadnought scientific method. As humanity's leading expert on alien technology, she had been analyzing fragments recovered from previous battles. The ancient powers use technology based on fundamental force manipulation, she reported to Admiral Dong-hyun. They can control gravity, electromagnetic fields, even the strong and weak nuclear forces. Can our weapons penetrate their defenses? Unknown, sir, but I have a theory. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly old. They've had millions of years to perfect their systems, but they may have forgotten how to adapt quickly to new threats. That theory would soon be tested. The main ancient fleet approached the heavily defended New Terra system, where Admiral Dong-hyun had concentrated his most powerful dreadnoughts. The battle began with the ancient powers, demonstrating their capabilities. A Kethamori worldship fired a weapon that caused a star to flicker, temporarily disrupting fusion reactions across an entire solar system. Void Singer vessels created artificial black holes that swallowed human defensive platforms whole. But humanity responded with tactics that the ancient civilizations had never encountered. Instead of engaging in the formal battle lines that galactic warfare had used for millennia, human ships scattered across three-dimensional space, attacking from every possible angle simultaneously. Captain Yoon-ji led her battle group in a desperate assault on a Kethmori command ship. All weapons target their power distribution nodes. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to disrupt their systems. Her dreadnought's kinetic weapons struck the ancient vessel's hull with the force of relativistic meteors. The Kethmori ship's shields absorbed most of the impact, but human weapons created interference patterns that disrupted their defensive matrices. Their shields are fluctuating, reported Tactical Officer Subin. The kinetic impacts are creating resonance cascades. All ships focus fire on the shield generators, Yoonji commanded. The human fleet concentrated their attacks on specific points, using precisely timed kinetic strikes to create interference patterns in the ancient shields. It was like using tuning forks to shatter crystal, primitive technology, exploiting advanced systems' own sophistication against them. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human commanders discovered weaknesses in technology that was millions of years old. The ancient powers had optimized their systems against threats they understood, but humanity fought in ways that violated those assumptions. Commander Hyun-woo discovered that Void-Singer gravity weapons could be disrupted by rapid changes in local space-time curvature. His dreadnought began firing void torpedoes not at enemy ships but at empty space around them, creating gravitational chaos that interfered with ancient targeting systems. "Sir, the enemy weapons are losing lock," reported his tactical officer. "The gravitational distortions are confusing their guidance systems." But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Soo-jin made a crucial discovery about the ancient civilization's greatest weakness. "Admiral, I've analyzed their communication patterns. These species haven't fought a serious war in millions of years. They're incredibly powerful, but they've forgotten how to adapt to changing battlefield conditions." "Explain." "They're using the same tactics they perfected eons ago. They haven't developed new strategies because they haven't faced serious opposition in geological time periods." Admiral Dong-hyun understood immediately. "They're fighting the last war, not this war." The tide of battle began to turn as human forces exploited their enemies' strategic inflexibility. Ancient ships that could destroy planets found themselves outmaneuvered by human vessels that changed tactics every few minutes. The climactic moment came when Captain Yoon-ji led a desperate assault on the largest Keth Mori world ship. Her dreadnought Terra's Wrath dove directly toward the ancient vessel's main weapon, using its own firepower to create a pathway through the enemy's defenses. "All power to forward shields," she commanded, as energy that could ignite stars washed over her ship. "Fire all void torpedoes directly at their primary reactor." The ancient ship's shields finally collapsed under the sustained assault from dozens of human dreadnoughts. For the first time in millions of years, a Keth Mori world ship was destroyed in combat. The psychological impact on the ancient fleets was devastating. Species that had considered themselves invincible suddenly faced their own mortality. Ancient commanders who had fought when the galaxy was young discovered that age was not the same as wisdom. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Kang-min, "we're receiving surrender requests from several ancient vessels." "Terms?" Admiral Dong-hyun asked. "They're offering to withdraw to the galactic core and never interfere with human affairs." Again. Denied. "Tell them that any species that threatens human extinction forfeits their right to negotiate." The final phase of the battle was swift and decisive. Human forces, now supported by dozens of younger alien species who had joined the fight against ancient tyranny, systematically destroyed or disabled the remaining ancient ships. The galaxy watched in amazement as civilizations millions of years old retreated in defeat, their fleets broken by humans who had only reached space a few centuries earlier. In the aftermath, the political transformation was immediate and permanent. The Galactic Council dissolved as member species scrambled to negotiate individual relationships with humanity. Ancient trade agreements collapsed as new alliances formed around human technological and military superiority. 2 years later, Ambassador Iwao Taemin stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Building on New Geneva, Earth's diplomatic capital. The massive chamber housed representatives from over 300 species, including many who had previously supported human subjugation. "The Galactic Assembly recognizes the sovereign rights of all member species," he announced to the gathered delegates. "No species shall be subject to ultimatums based on age, technology level, or expansion rate." In the audience, former Overlord Crixmoth sat quietly among the Velthari delegation. His species had been among the first to seek peaceful relations with humanity after the defeat of the ancient powers. President Jae-hyun delivered the closing address to the Assembly's first session. "The galaxy is vast enough for all species that choose growth over stagnation, cooperation over domination, freedom over